how many of your fantasy classics throughout the whole series stay consistently good or better than the previous book? It's actually a pretty hard question. So yesterday I saw this really good post on r/Reddit with this question. What are some series that stay consistently good or get progressively better? And I think initially people are like, oh, that's an easy question. There's so many great fantasy series out there. There's many that like stay good or get better. But I thought answering this question really strictly actually makes it very difficult because so many of the great series that we love have incredible volumes that even the next book in the series, while still good, maybe even great, if we're being honest, aren't an improvement or aren't even at the same quality of the last one just because it's so good. So to illustrate my points, here are a couple series real quick at the beginning that I think don't do that I love, that are in my, I think all of these are in my top 10, fantasy of all time. First of all, the biggest shocker I think to most people, Lord of the Rings. I don't think The Lord of the Rings does this if we're being super strict, and I think this video is much more fun if we are super strict about this. Fellowship of the Ring is my favorite book in the trilogy. It's just so great. I've read this more than all the other ones. The slow pace at the beginning and the slow building of the lore and the world is just so wonderful. I love just the four hobbits traveling together, and then when Strider is there, him being with them. And once the Fellowship is formed, it's still fantastic. The plot, the travel is still slow, but it never quite honestly reaches the heights as Fellowship of the Ring for me. Two Towers and Lord of the Rings suffer from, I think, the Fellowship being divided and that there's this first half and second half. Now, don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying those books are bad. This is my second favorite fantasy of all time. Just that if we're being honest with this particular question, I think Fellowship of the Ring doesn't quite stay at that same level the whole time because the first one is just so great, even though the rest of the series is fantastic. This is not a critique of Lord of the Rings. I'm just trying to answer this question honestly. Same is true with A Song of Ice and Fire. I have Dance with Dragons here, which I think is an excellent book. I love it. I'm very excited to do a reread of this if Winds of Winter ever comes out, or maybe my clock is just going to time out and I'm just going to have to reread these for fun. Right now, honestly for me, the first book, A Game of Thrones, is fantastic, one of the best ever written. And then Clash of Kings, that's the second one, right? Is, for me, incredible. The best book in the series. And the rest of them are wonderful. I love the rest of the A Song of Ice and Fire books. But I think after A Clash of Kings, because it's so good, there is a slight dip down. Part of that is just there's so many characters that are spread out over Westeros and other parts of the world. It gets a little difficult to maintain the consistency of those early books. So even though, again, a top 10 fantasy series of all time, it doesn't quite stay consistently good or get progressively better. I think Dune is the same way, and I think this is an easier case to make because the first Dune is such a great novel, filled with political, religious, socioeconomic, colonial subtext. I mean, so many incredible themes that the following books in the series, while this is still a top 10 fantasy sci-fi series for me, is not up to the same caliber as this first book. Even Dune Messiah and Children of Dune 2 and 3, which I love, are not quite to that same level. And then Children of Dune and following, I think, is quite clearly a step down, I think, for most people. There we go. I'm setting the stage for how hard it is to really say honestly that this series stays consistently at the same level, and that level at least being good, or even getting better. So I went through like my Goodreads, went through my books on my shelf, I went through the like r/fantasy's top fantasy novels, and I came up with only four. And so this is quite an achievement, and I want to be clear that I'm not saying these are the four best fantasy ever, because some of these start out at a pretty low level, or like a good level but not great level, and maintain that, and maybe elevate some really good stuff, but still maybe aren't going to be in that all-time zone. So I'll be very clear about the question I'm answering here, but let's get into it. Four series that I think stay consistently good or get even better all the way through the whole series. Quick caveat is I tried to pick series that are a little bit more established, not just like one or two books that I really liked in a series. I didn't pick, I don't know, just for example, Kingkiller Chronicles. Only has 2 books out of maybe 3, maybe 4. if they ever are written. And so it's hard to judge that. And even that one, to be honest, I think the first book is quite better than the second one, but I'm just saying as far as qualifying, unless you're further into the series, I'm not going to qualify for this list. So here we go. Number 1, this is the only one on this list that I don't own some books in them, so I can't show you a physical copy, but The Expanse by James S.A. Corey. This is very impressive because this is a 10-book series. It's huge. There's a lot of words, a lot of books, a lot of attempts or possibilities of quality coming down, but in my estimation, it doesn't. This is some of the best adventure sci-fi out there. It starts off as this very sort of small story about one space station that has this mysterious illness or like zombie-like thing happening, and one captain that sort of, or crew that gets mixed up in it. And then each subsequent novel and part of the series expands it more, fills out the world, introduces new and exciting characters, and every book in this series, for me, stays at the same level or gets better, and the ending is so satisfying, so wonderful. I think because there's this a TV show for a little while that got canceled and then got picked up by another station, and people liked the TV show, but the TV show is a little different, that people have slept mostly on this series, and we don't talk about it enough. I know it's a super famous, big series, but the ability to have that many books that are that quality, that are so interesting and build such a great sci-fi world that sort of has a foot in both worlds of hard and like adventure sci-fi, is something to truly be impressed with. And if you haven't yet, please check out The Expanse. And just to asterisk on there is the audiobook narrator on those audiobooks is phenomenal. I need to look up their name so I can actually praise them. Give me a second. Jefferson Mays is his name, and he is just tremendous. So if you're looking for an audiobook, I can't recommend highly enough The Expanse. Let's get the one that probably no one is going to be surprised by, and that is Malazan, Book of the Fallen, my all-time favorite series. And again, being strict, I think is actually true to getting better every novel or staying consistently good. The tightest it gets is 8, 9, and 10, because I think Toll the Hounds is one of the best books ever written, in my opinion. But then Book 9, Dust of Dreams, is quite fantastic and has some of the most heartbreaking scenes in the entire series, most affecting scenes, and then Crippled God is my favorite. So I do think every single book maintains the same level of quality as the last book or improves upon it in the entire Malazan series. And I purposefully have Memories of Ice here. This is the third book in the Malazan Book of the Fallen, because I do think the first two books, while great, the third one takes a really big step up in quality for me. And then the rest of the series never, ever comes down from that. And as I said, in a couple, even goes up another notch, especially those last 3 books in the series. So I sometimes tell people to start at the third one if they're having trouble with Gardens of the Moon. That might be controversial in the Malazan community, but that's what I think. And this is tremendous. I mean, I've talked about Malazan Book of the Fallen all the time on this channel, so you can go see some of that stuff, but it definitely stays consistently good or gets better. All right. I think the next 2 are going to be a little bit of a surprise to people. One of these is still in my top 10, and one is not quite, but close. So this is technically the second trilogy in a larger series, but it can be read standalone, and I don't think actually you miss anything. When I read it the first time, I honestly missed all of the connections to the first trilogy, so I do not think it is necessary to read the first trilogy in this series, which is, of course, The Realm of the Otherlings, and the second trilogy is the Live Ship Traders trilogy. Ship of Destiny is the third one. The first one is Ship of Magic. You can pick that up at any time, even if you didn't like the Farseer trilogy, which is the first trilogy in the larger Robin Hobb Realm of the Elderlings. You can read the Live Ship Trader as a stand-in, and it is just incredible. And Ship of Magic brings you into this world so well. There's so many unique, fun aspects to that world, to those characters, but each book raises the stakes, raises the world, and you truly can't get a handle on where it is going to take you, and it is such a satisfying conclusion for me. And it's not a tight or clear or happy conclusion, but a satisfying one. Heroes becomes heroes, and villains become heroes, and then back to villains. Some of the worst things you will read in a series in its portrayal of true human tragedy, while also having incredible triumph, great friendships, true horrors. I mean, Live Ship Trader trilogy is so good, and each book gets better. The first one, Ship of Magic, is tremendous. Mad Ship just adds a whole nother layer to the trilogy, and then Ship of Destiny brings it to a conclusion that you will not see coming and is so worth it. So absolutely putting Live Ship Trader trilogy as consistently good or just gets better. So one more here that actually might surprise people, because I don't have a lot on the channel about this series, but I really like this series, and this is an example of a series that started off okay. The first time I read it, I was like, meh, but each book consistently got better, and while each one kind of plays like a standalone for a little while, eventually you're brought into this much bigger, much wider world, a much more expansive plot that works for me. Some of you will probably guess at this point. I am talking about the Dresden Files by Jim Butcher. It's about a wizard called Harry Dresden who solves crimes in modern day Chicago, or like late 90s, early 2000s Chicago. It starts out as just kind of a crime hard-boiled detective story with fantasy elements in modern day Chicago, which is so fun, and then all of a sudden slowly draws you into what turns out to be a pretty epic, fantastical, well, there's no conclusion yet, but fantastical plot and worldwide world building on top of our lived-in world, and it just really grabs you. It starts off, I would even say good, like fair. The first one is called, I think, Full Moon? No. What's the first one called? First one's called Stormfront. So I guess, and it was in 2000, so it was, modern day at the time. And it was fine. It was enjoyable. It was good enough that I went to the next book, but didn't really rope me in. The next couple were also like fine. Pretty cool moments. I enjoyed it. Just kind of like weaved it in between other larger fantasy that I was reading. And honestly, for me, was kind of in that space of like a palate cleanser book where like I can go and read a Dresden File, in between some other books, and I'll have a really good time. And then I don't know when it's around, honestly. It might be 6 or 7. All of a sudden you get drawn into this larger thing and you start really caring about Harry. And Harry has really grown as a character and a much more sympathetic hero than he was in those first couple. Eventually you're just following him through just a fantastic, epic plot. And it's really impressive. All these books, I think, are at the same level or get even better. So those are my 4. Again, the 4 are Live Ship Traders Trilogy, Malazan Book of the Fallen, The Expanse by James S.A. Corey, and Dresden Files by Jim Butcher. I really want to know what your thoughts are on this question. Like a tag, if you are a booktuber out there, take this question and answer it for me. Tag me in that video, and I would love to hear what you think. Which series or trilogies or fantasy epics stay at the same level of good or get even better? Because it's a tough question if you're really, really brutally honest with it. Want to hear what you think. Do you agree with mine? Do you not agree? Let me know in the comments below. As always, first in, last out.